Welcome folks, in this tutorial I'm going to share some of the useful shortcuts that I use in Excel 2010 frequently. I use these shortcuts day in and day out, and I hope that they help you too. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. The first shortcut is to enter the date and time. So to enter the date, just hold down the control key and press the colon key. And that should go ahead and automatically enter today's date. To enter the time, you would repeat the same thing, but instead of the colon, you would actually use the semicolon. So I would hold a control, shift, semicolon, and that will go ahead and give you the time. Now notice that these are not formulas, they are not equivalent to the now function that you use. Because in the now function, every time you open up the spreadsheet, this entry would be updated. Whereas this entry, the one that you created with the shortcut key, will not be updated. The next is the copy, paste, and undo command, which I'm pretty sure most of you are familiar with. To copy any cell, just hit Control C and hit Control V to paste. And to undo the command, just hold Control and hit Z. And that will undo the last action that you did. You can also undo your commands from these arrows. You can redo them here and undo them right up here. Alright, the next step has to do with the changing cell dimensions. So if we go to sheet 2, you'll see I've got a couple of records down here, and the email is not visible. So if I wanted to adjust the width of this column, all I have to do is just double tap, and that should automatically adjust the width of the column. The next step is that if you want to see the formulas in your sheet, all you have to do is just hold down Control and hit the tilde key, and that will show you all the formulas in your spreadsheet. This spreadsheet, I had formulas for the average sum and standard deviation of the sample, and that's exactly what it's showing me. And you can hit Control tilde to go back to your normal view. Next, let's say if you wanted to select a column, all you'll have to do is just hold down Control and hit the spacebar key, and that will go ahead and select your whole column or your active column. And the same thing with the row. If you wanted to select an entire row, all you have to do is just hold down Shift and press the spacebar key, and that will select the active row for you. Now, in order to edit a cell, what you normally have to do is you have to double click so that you can make the edits. But if you wanted to use the keyboard, all you have to do is just hit F2, and that places the cell in edit mode, and you can go ahead and make changes to the information in that cell. And let's say if you're anywhere in the document and you want to go to the beginning of your spreadsheet, all you have to do is just hit Control and the Home key, and that will take you to the beginning of your spreadsheet. And likewise, if you wanted to go to the end of your sheet, you would hold the Control key and hit the End key, and that will take you to the end of your spreadsheet. Now, this shortcut is useful if you use the find function a lot. If you wanted to find something in a given range, all you have to do is just hold down the Shift key and press F5, and then type what you're looking for, and it will highlight that entry for you. The next useful tip is that if you want to go to a certain cell, you can just simply hit F5, and then let's say if I wanted to go to cell C13, all I have to do is type in C13, and it would automatically move the focus to that cell. The go to selection box is pretty helpful, so let's try this. If I wanted to select all the cells in my spreadsheet that have a formula in it, all I have to do is just hit F5. That will bring up the go to box, and then I can go to Special. I can click on Formulas. So select all the cells that have a formula in it, and press OK, and you'll notice that it will select all of my cells in my spreadsheet that do have a formula in the background. The Go To dialog box is also pretty helpful if you're looking for objects in your spreadsheet. So, for example, in this spreadsheet right here, you don't see any objects, but if I go ahead and click on F5 and go to, I would go ahead and click on Special, and I want to select all the objects that are within this spreadsheet. I would select Objects, and then go ahead and click on OK. And notice that it automatically takes you to the objects, to the place where you've got objects stored in this active spreadsheet. So I'll just show you one more trick with the go-to box before we move on. So let's say if we go to the top of our spreadsheet, and I want to select all of the blank cells within my frame of reference, or within the frame that I'm working in. I would hit F5, go to Special, and I would ask it to select all the cells that are blank and hit OK. And you'll notice that it automatically goes ahead and selects all of the cells that do not have an entry in them. So this is a nice way of selecting blank cells within the frame that you're working within. Now I'm sure most of you are already familiar with the formatting of cells, but if you wanted to go ahead and quickly bring up the Format Cell dialog box, all you have to do is just hit Control and 1, and that brings up the Format Cell dialog box. And you can change any of the options. You can change the format, the alignment, border of the cell, and different stuff. So it's Control 1. Now another great tool in Excel is the spell checker. If you wanted to bring up the spell check, all you have to do is just hit F7, and that will go ahead and bring up the spell check for you. I'm just going to hit cancel for now, but the key to remember is F7 for spell checks. Now let's say if you were entering data into your spreadsheet and you wanted the active cursor to move up after you press, or after you've completed an entry, you would hit Shift and then press the Enter key. Here's what I want to show you. So if I go ahead and type any number and press Enter, you'll notice that the active cursor just moves down from the cell above it. And if I add another entry, it'll move even further down. So, but let's say if I was filling the data from bottom up, I would type in my entry, but instead of simply hitting Enter, I would just hit Shift and Enter, and you'll notice that it'll actually move up instead of going down. Likewise, if I wanted to move to the right after adding an entry, I would just hit the Tab key and keep moving to the right. And if I wanted to move to the left after adding an entry, I would hit the Shift and the Tab key. So you'll notice that your active cursor now moves to the left after you've completed the entry in a cell. Now for the next step, I'm not actually going to show you that right now, but if you wanted to go to a separate sheet or different sheets within your worksheet, all you have to do is just hit Control and Page Down. The next step is actually pretty useful, and I use that a lot. If you want to apply a quick border around your cell, all you have to do is just hold down the Shift and the Control key and press 7, and that will quickly apply a border around that cell. Let me do it one more time. And there you go. The next tip I want to show you is related to comments in your cell. So let's say if you wanted to quickly add a comment in your active cell, all you have to do is just hold down the Shift key and press F2. And you can quickly enter your comments in this cell right here. Now the next keyword shortcut I want to share with you has to do with repeating the last action that you did, which is pretty similar to the redo command, but it comes in handy because let's say, for example, I wanted to add a couple of rows between Sam and Tim. What I can quickly do is just right click and say, well, insert a row, and it does that. But let's say if I wanted to add a couple of more rows between these two entries, I can do that by just simply hitting F4. So if I keep on hitting F4, you'll see that it will repeat the last action that I did. So to repeat the last action, your shortcut key is F4. And the last tip that I want to share with you for this session is closing your working document. If you wanted to close the working document, you simply hit Control F4 and